Hey everyone, this is Karlan.
And I'm Karan Shah. We are the co-founders of Ivy Experience, and we want to talk with you today about brainstorming ideas for college application essays. Now, some of the prompts for this year's applications have already been released, but that doesn't matter. We do not need prompts to brainstorm. In fact, we would tell you to avoid looking at the prompts before brainstorming.
Because there's really only one question your student needs to answer. What does your admissions officer need to know about you? My dad once told me that when approaching a college or job interview, you want to know the answers to the questions before you hear the questions. While most students and parents think this means you should prepare a lot or study the questions, what it really means is that your student needs to know what they want to highlight about themselves no matter what questions are asked. And that same principle applies to college essays.
When we meet with families and ask that all-important question, what does your admissions officer need to know about you? The reactions are almost always the same. Parents usually start listing adjectives and superlatives. That's a good starting point, but remember, one of the most common pieces of advice that we give to students when they are drafting and revising their essays: show, don't just tell. Don't list adjectives, but share stories that show how those adjectives are true. Now, the students normally stare at us like a deer in the headlights, and then once they start talking, they start recapping their resume. This is good, but it usually does not cut to the core of their character.
When you start brainstorming, remember that essay ideas come from two places: your student's resume and your student's eulogy. Your student's resume is obvious, and they should list everything out that would go on a resume: activities, clubs, volunteering, jobs, sports, music, research, and so on. This is important, by the way, not just for essays, but for the section of the application where your student must highlight their activities, honors, and awards.
The other source for essay ideas that I mentioned is a eulogy, and we're not being morbid in saying this. Think about what sets apart a eulogy from a resume. All the things that are essential to understanding a person that would probably never appear on a resume: life experiences, hardships faced, passions, intellectual curiosities, meaningful moments in relationships, hobbies, quirks, obstacles overcome and endured. The student needs to dig deep, be honest, be open, be raw. We are not saying that ideas from a resume do not yield amazing essays, but ideas from a eulogy oftentimes make for the most memorable essays as they are the most personal.
Now, we have just one rule here at Ivy Experience for your families during the brainstorm process: no arguing. If your student suggests something that you think colleges would deem unimportant, write it down. If you as the parent mentions an idea that your teenager rolls their eyes at or claims is stupid, write it down. There are no bad ideas. When we meet with parents and students to discuss college application essays, we want as much information as possible. We do not know everything about your sons and daughters when we meet them, but if you can give us as complete a picture as possible, from the significant to the serious to the silly, we can then best advise your family and help your student best package themselves on their essays and applications.
Remember, these essays are celebrating the best and most meaningful parts of your students. And yes, essays are hard, but they are not punishment. They're your student's only opportunity to communicate personally with the admissions officer. That is an opportunity to seize.
And one last thing on that point: admissions officers are people. People accept other people. That is why these application essays are so important. You want admissions officers to connect with your students.
So, with all this said, start brainstorming. Feel free to pass this video along to other families, and make sure you use the attached brainstorming worksheet.
If you want to set up a meeting to discuss working together with Ivy Experience on applications and essays, email us at info@myivyexperience.com or call 267-888-6489. And don't forget to send us your worksheet before the meeting. Thanks for listening, and happy brainstorming.